All right, yeah, we are here for the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix, which is going down this Saturday, of course, in Boston, Massachusetts. Easily one of the most high-profile events on the indoor calendar year after year. And to a degree, I'd probably say the first major professional indoor meet indoors this year. Yes, we've had the Astana meet. We just saw a meet in Belgrade, Serbia. Shout out to all the meets. I'll be fair, of course, but I think this is the one that's bringing out the most top stars so far in 2025. Of course, Noah Lyles, Marcel Jacobs, Dina Smith, Julien Alfred, Masai Russell, Ackera Nugent, Grant Holloway, Jasmine Moore in the triple. You have a lot of big names who are going to be competing here, either kicking off or, their second competition of the year. It's going to be pretty exciting. So let's dive in and talk about some of these high quality fields that we'll see in Boston. First off, the men's 60-meter dash. This, of course, has been one of the more highly, profiled events. Last year, we saw Noah versus Fred and Akeem Blake. This year, we're getting a good one. Noah Lyles, of course, is going to be running here in the 60, trying to defend his title, but he's going up against stacked field. Trayvon Bromell, Zarnell Hughes, Marcel Jacobs, Udodi Onzurike. You also have Miles Lewis, shout out to Puerto Rico and New York City, Terrence Jones, newly minted pro, representing Bahamas, PJ Austin, JT Smith. So very high quality field. And I think for the most part, the top three names are going to be Noah Lyles, Marcel Jacobs, and Trayvon Bromell. These three all time in the 60-meter dash are literally some of the best ever. When you're talking about Marcel Jacobs, number 4 all time in the 60-meter dash, right? You're talking about Trayvon Bromell, number 6 all time in the 60-meter dash. Noah Lyles, number 10 all time in the 60-meter dash. So we have 3 of the top 10 all time in the 60 meters competing this weekend in Boston. If you remember, back in 2023, that was Noah Lyles versus Trayvon Bromell. Bromell didn't do as well at that meet, but we did see him follow that up with his 6.42 down in Clemson that year, which is still his personal best to this day. Noah Lyles, last year, he opened up his season in Florida, similar to the way that he did this year. He ran 6.6 to open up his season. Then he went on to run 6.44 at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. This year, he's already run 6.6. Now, not saying he's definitely going to run 6.4 flat or something crazy like that, but we do know that he at least is slightly ahead of pace. If not anything, he's consistent, right? So that's going to be one to look out for. And then, of course, we have Marcel Jacobs, 2022 World Indoor Champion in the 60, 6.41 personal best, again, number 4 all time. He's coming off a very, very strong year in 2024, where, yes, he got 5th place at the Olympic Games. He didn't make it onto the podium, but he had literally his best season since 2021, coming off a best of 9.85 seconds in that Olympic final. The fact that he's running indoors at the top of this year, he's going to be running Millrose next week as well, that tells me that he's healthy, he's hungry, and he wants to start off his year on a very, very positive note. So those are the top 3 that I'm really looking forward to. Outside of that, of course, you have Zarnell Hughes. Zarnell Hughes, a little untested indoors in the 60. He does have a personal best of 6.45 seconds, but that's an outdoor 60 run in 2023 when, everyone's been talking about the outdoor 60s recently. So we'll see how he kind of does. He'll definitely be interesting to see how he gets into the mix. Then you have guys like Udodi Onzurike, you have Miles Lewis, Terrence Jones. Terrence Jones actually might be the next one that I'm really keeping an eye out for. Personal best of 6.45 seconds. He was the NCAA champion back-to-back years. He's kind of had an interesting past year where, of course, he dominated the indoor NCAAs with the 60 and the 200, but outdoors he dealt with injuries, so wasn't able to, go outdoors and actually win anything. He went to the Olympic Games. He then went pro. So I don't know what his situation is right now. We don't know if he's fully healthy, if he's back, but going to be exciting to see him on the list here. And then all the other guys, shout out to this men's 60-meter dash. But let's fast forward a little bit and talk about the men's 300. This is going to be a very, very interesting race because of the 3 names that we have running. Rai Benjamin, gold medalist in the 400-meter hurdles at the Olympic Games last year. Vernon Norwood, of course, one of the most consistent 400-meter runners over the past decade since, 2015 when he came out of LSU. And he, of course, was low-key the savior of Team USA's relays at the Olympic Games, where he split 43 seconds basically every single time in 4 rounds. Vernon is that guy. And then, of course, Matthew Bowling, the guy who was next up and this, that, whatever. Now he's a pro. He's competing here at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. Now, looking at the 300, it's a little interesting because Rai Benjamin, he has a personal best indoors of 32.35 seconds. That was back in 2020. And all the other performances that he has, 32.5, 33.1, all these things are from years ago. The top 2, 2020, 2019. But then you're going back to high school for him. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to really get going in the 300 here. He, of course, has a very strong 200-meter personal best outdoors of 19.99 seconds. Also, don't forget, 2018 NCAA championships, got 3rd place in the 200, I think, with running 20.3. So he has some very strong chops. And, of course, 400 chops are off the charts as well. Vernon Norwood, he's also a little interesting. Outdoors, he has a personal best of 31.81 seconds in the 300, but indoors, that's from so long ago, 32.70. That's from the Reggie Lewis Center in Boston. Like, that track is low-key not even banked, right? So it'll be interesting to see how Vernon Norwood kind of plays things out. Then Matthew Bowling. Matthew Bowling, the only 300 that he's run was last year indoors, 32.84 seconds. Now, we know he's a very strong 200 runner and he's a very strong 400 runner, but how is that going to converge when we get to the indoor 300 against two of the best guys in the world right now when talking about the 400 specifically? So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Excited to see the men's 300, but let's move over to the women's 300, which probably is a little more exciting for me just because it's a little more unknown, but it also potentially has the ability to produce some of the best results. Julien Alfred versus Dina Smith versus Lena Irby Jackson. Julien Alfred coming off a gold medal in the 100 and a silver medal in the 200 at the Olympic Games. Dina Smith, she's of course had some up and downs. She of course moved to Texas and now is training with Julien Alfred, Rashida Adeleke, all them down with Coach Flo. Now in the 300, both of them are not to say unknown, but they of course haven't dipped their toes as heavily into the event. I did want to take a look because World Athletics is not doing their job properly. Dina Smith, her 300 meter best is not listed on World Athletics for whatever reason, but she ran it last year in Albuquerque, 36.77 seconds. So that's a pretty strong mark for someone, of course, who's a 100, 200 runner. 36.7, I really like that. Now, Julien Alfred, she is another one, 37.36 seconds, and she actually ran that in 2022. So she was still at Texas at the time, ran that in Louisville. Of course, though, in 100 and 200, they're relatively evenly matched, where Julien Alfred, she does have a personal best in the 100 of 10.72 seconds, while in the 200, she has a personal best of 21.86 seconds. But very close to Dina Smith when talking about at least the 200, where Dina Smith's personal best in the 100 is 10.83 seconds from the World Championships in Doha back in 2019, but her 200 meter best is 21.88 seconds. So, and again, this is also from Doha 2019. Of course, Dina Smith has a lot more experience than Julien Alfred, but if I'm gonna pick someone out of the group here, I'm gonna probably pick Julien Alfred. Now, neither of them have opened things up. Neither of them have kind of shown their cards when talking about 2025 yet, but I'd pick Julien Alfred by an edge, but I wouldn't be surprised to see either of them get the win. Shout out to Lena Irby Jackson, though. I don't want to let her go overlooked. She always runs at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix here. She just recently moved back to her former coach and who's coaching at Vanderbilt, so she's no longer with Tandra Buford-Bailey. So shout out to Lena Irby Jackson. She also is going to be one to look out for throughout 2025 as she kind of gets her footing. But let's move over. Men's 60-meter hurdles. I think for the most part, this is going to be the Grant Holloway show. Grant Holloway, he's running on a 10-year streak of being undefeated in the 60-meter hurdles. This would be his 11th year of, being undefeated. He, of course, is going to be going for world records and another world indoor title, all of that. But he does have a very strong field behind him as well. Shout out to Freddie Crittenden, of course, just missed the podium, I think in 2023. And then last year at the Olympic Games, made it to the final. He had, little injury issues. Shout out to Freddie for being very transparent when we were talking to him in Paris through the rounds. But he's also coming off a very good season, in my opinion. Ran 12.9 at the Olympic trials. Shout out to Freddie Crittenden. We'll see how he does here. Trey Cunningham, he has always been a stalwart in the 60-meter hurdles, right? Eric Edwards, you have Cordell Tinch, Louis Rollins, and Jamal Britt. It's a pretty stacked field, but listen, we got to be honest. Grant Holloway is the man of the hour here. It'd be a surprise if he lost, but, I'm looking to see if he's able to drop something really strong. But let's move over. Women's 60-meter hurdles. Now, only 5 women in the field, but this is deep. This is very, very deep. Devin Charlton, world record holder in the 60-meter hurdles at 7.65 seconds. It's still crazy to think that she ran 7.6 in the 60-meter hurdles. Crazy. Ackera Nugent, NCAA champion 2 years ago in 2023, and she has a best of 7.72 seconds. She was coming off a legendary season last year, despite not getting on the podium. She, of course, is a threat. Grace Stark, second place indoors in the 60-meter hurdles, but outdoors, she won the 100-meter hurdles, went on to the Olympic Games, almost got onto the podium, right, in that very close race. Grace Stark, 7.78 seconds in the 60-meter hurdles. So she is a very, very strong threat. Masai Russell, Olympic champion in the 100-meter hurdles, coming off a legendary season. Her first professional year was last year. She, of course, has some very strong chops, and she is going to be a competitive threat here. And then Christina Clemens. Christina Clemens, of course, she's easily the most experienced athlete in this group right now. She is the 2018 World Indoor Championship silver medalist, and she's run 7.7. So this entire field is stacked. This is stacked, and we're going to see them run it back at the Millrose Games next week. We're going to see them probably run it back, another time. Listen, women's hurdles, 100-meter hurdles, 60-meter hurdles, whatever, they love to compete, and this is going to be a very, very competitive field. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. let's move over to the women's 60-meter dash. This isn't too deep, right? We don't see any major names, but Makai Briscoe, you can never count out Makai Briscoe. She's always been in the mix at not only the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix, she also, of course, is the 2022 World Indoor Silver Medalist in the 60, and she made the World Indoor Final last year in the 60-meter dash as well. So she's always going to be a threat. Tamara Clark, she, of course, is one of the stronger 100, 200 runners from the United States. She is also going to be in the mix. Celera Barnes, she's been very consistent the past couple years, made it to the World Indoor Championships in the 60. Always looking out for her. Zoe Hobbs. Zoe Hobbs is one that I am very much looking out for, not only indoors here, but also when we kind of look forward to 2025. She's run some very strong performances last year in 2024. Of course, she competes for New Zealand. Indoors, she made the World Indoor Final in the 60. She's going to be one to really look out for. Audrey Leduc from Canada, she's, not as strong in terms of her performances and the times, right? I think 7.2 is her personal best, so she'll be kind of in the mix. Destiny Smith Barnett is going to be in the field, and then Jasis Sears, previously of Tennessee, she's now professional, I think competing for Nike now. She just dropped a 7.15 in the 60-meter dash just this past weekend in Clemson, so she's getting her footing back, right? We saw her run that 10.77 last year down in Florida in the season. She unfortunately got injured at SEC, so wasn't able to go on to not only NCAAs, but also the U.S. Olympic trials, but 7.15 to start off her 2025 season, that's a good indicator that she's back healthy, and she might be really pushing towards going to maybe in USA Indoors, going to World Indoors if she's able to make it. This is going to be a lot of top athletes competing at the World Indoor Championship, so this might be her year to get the opportunity to compete on the global stage. So we'll see how Jason Sears kind of plays out here and that whole women's 60-meter dash field. With that, men's 400. This is a pretty good field. Shout out to Dream Richards. Dream Richards, world indoor champion in 2022 in Belgrade. 45 flat in the 400 personal best indoors. Of course, he came off that legendary Olympic final where he got 4th place, ran 43.7 and just missed the podium. Man, that, of course, heartbreaking, but that shows the talent that Dream Richards has. And he just came off a very strong 300 running 32 seconds, I think a week ago. So he's in some very good form. You also have Zakithi Nene from South Africa. He's been a very strong 400-meter runner for the country as well. Will Sumner dropping down from the 800. He is kind of coming back after a little bit, I think, right? Competed for Georgia, went pro, had some time off, but he's back. And then Quincy Wilson. Quincy Wilson, of course, he's now 17 years old. He's a prodigy. He's going to be running the 400 here. Now, my theory as to why he's running the 400 here, he's also going to be running the 600 at Millrose, but he probably is looking to see if he can get a very strong 400-meter time down, and also if he can continue to maybe ride a little bit of the spotlight that he's been getting over the past year since competing at the Olympics, since breaking all the world youth records, etc., etc. Remember, he did lose that 500-meter race, a week or two ago, right? But let's be honest, because that was high school, because unfortunately the guy who actually beat him is not very widely known, most of the public who's following Quincy isn't really going to have that come up on their radars. But if Quincy competes here, runs the 400, competes against, Dream Richards, Will Sumner, and then Zakithi Nene, right? These guys are professionals. He can lose to them, but if he runs a good time, then he gets a lot of spotlight. So I like what Quincy Wilson is doing here. Also pretty notable is that before this, he's never actually run a 400 outside of nationals, indoors at least. He's always run the 600s and some of these other races, but he's never run a 400 indoors outside of New Balance Nationals and, a long time ago, Adidas Nationals when he was very, very young. So this is going to be interesting. Again, mixing it up with the pros, excited to see how things kind of play out, but let's move on. Finishing up a couple things in the field events. Women's triple jump. I'm always going to shout out either men's or women's triple jump. My favorite event, 400, 200 triple jump. Show them some love, but Jasmine Moore. I'm looking at Jasmine Moore and Charisma Taylor as they are the top 2 names here. Shout out to Jessie Maduka as well as Dovili Kilty. I think Kilty, she competed at the Olympic Games last year, and she didn't make the final or anything like that, but she does have a best of, I think, 14.2 meters in the triple jump. And then you have Jessie Maduka. She didn't make it to the Olympic Games last year, but she's very much on the rise and up and coming in a sense. But Jasmine Moore, Charisma Taylor, what people forget is that at the 2023 NCAA Indoor Championships, these two were going back and forth, trading leads at the Indoor Championships in the triple jump at arguably one of the greatest triple jump competitions that we've ever seen indoors. And if you look back, because most people might not be familiar with Charisma Taylor. Indoors, Jasmine Moore, 15.12 meters, again, from 2023. And then you also had Charisma Taylor, 14.88 meters, again, back in 2023. That was a very, very strong competition that both of them are going back and forth with. This is going to be a good, they're not going to be jumping 15 meters or 14 highs. I don't think any of that is going to be happening, but I am excited to see how both of them kind of play off each other. They both made it at the Olympic Games. Jasmine Moore, of course, is coming off the bronze medal in the triple and the long. Charisma Taylor, she didn't make the final in the triple, but she's going to be a threat, represents Bahamas. So let's close things out. Shout out to the men's high jump. Romain Beckford from Jamaica, NCAA champion from last year. He's kind of course, going to be on the rise for a couple years. And then shout out to Donald Thomas from Bahamas, Vernon Turner. He's always been a consistent guy. This is the high jump. So overall, like I said, very, very highly competitive New Balance Indoor Grand Prix, again, going down this Saturday in Boston. I've been going the past, 2 or 3 years or so. I'm not going this year, so I'm going to miss out a little bit, but you're going to run it back at Millrose next weekend. So let me know what you think about these fields at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. What are your favorite fields? Do you think that we'll see some really insanely fast times in either the men's 60 or the women's 300 or Grand Holloway in the 60 hurdles or anything like that, even the 400 with Quincy Wilson? Let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.